Okay, I believe you can see my screen, sir. Hello. Can you see my screen, sir?
I can see a screen.
All right.
I mute my mic. That's why.
All right. All right. All right. So now the other day we stopped at if and else. So I will just review those things that we have learned before. Then we can proceed with the new
Okay.
topic. Now we started from variable, and we said a variable is a container used in storing data or values. So, and from what we have been doing here, we have been declaring variable. For instance, now this pin is a variable that is holding a data, and the data this pin is holding is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 is the data or value this variable is actually holding. So now this is a variable and this is a value. I hope you understand. You don't have any problem with variables, sir.
No, 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 not at all.
Okay, good. So from where we stop at if and else. And I explained, I said it's just like simple English language. We have if not this, then it should be this. And we gave this example, and thank God you really understand it, because from the assignment or you sent to me, it was very, very correct. So today, let's talk about
Thank you, sir.
indentation. Let's talk about indentation. I think I've even talked about it the other day, but I will still talk about it. I have not even talked about
Yes,
it. So
that's
now,
easy.
sir?
Mm. Yes, you talked about the spacing before the print,
Good, good.
and that's
That is
indentation.
good.
I think
That is the
you talked
indentation.
about
Very
it.
good. Very good. So now, let's quickly go to what we call a list. This screen is full, so I will
Okay.
just create a new file. This is how to create a new file. Like this is hello. This is the file we are dealing with now. You can just come to this place. This first button here is for a new file. So you just click
Okay.
on it and give the name of the file. Since we are dealing with list, let me call it list.py, which is the extension for Python. So
Okay.
list.py, then enter. Good. So we are here now. We can start writing our code now. I used to collapse this environment here so that my screen will be big. So to hide this environment here, I'll just press Ctrl B. And if I want to unhide it, I'll press Ctrl B back. It will come. You can see I've hide it.
I'm coming.
Okay.
I'm
So
coming.
now, all right, sir.
I'm trying to.
All right, no problem, sir.
I'm trying to create the file. Okay, I've created it. Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So the definition of lists are used to store multiple items in a single variable. Now from where we stopped, we can say x, or let me use name, is equals to let me put Paul. Name is equals to Paul. Now this name is a variable, while the Paul here is the value. Now there are some situations whereby we just want to declare a single variable that is going to hold a lot of values together. This is where list comes in. For instance, now we have name. We have name. We now have is equals to. We open a square bracket. This is how to write a list. We have Paul. We have Jerry. We have John. Now look at this variable now. You can see it's same variable. It's just like same variable. But this time around, we are using a square bracket. And we have a lot of items inside the square bracket. You can see, sir.
Yes, yes.
So now, this is what we call a list. Wherever you see they declared a variable, they now use a square bracket. You now have equals to, they now have the data or the values are inside a square bracket. And it is not just one data or item that is inside that item. We call it a variable. So a variable can hold a lot of value. This variable now is holding a name. It can also hold a name. It can also hold a number rather, like 39. Let's put 39 here. Now look at it. I have name just in a single variable in a name now. It's holding Paul. It's holding Jerry. It's holding John. And it's holding 39. Just a single variable holding this multiple. We can add more. So that is what we call a list. A list is used in storing multiple items in a single variable. Excuse me. Okay. So I believe you understand. It's just very simple. So how do we write a list? You just declare a variable the same way you declare your normal variable. Then you just make sure that your items are fixed inside a square bracket. Then you separate each values or data with a comma. This is a comma. After Paul, I wrote comma. The space. After Jerry, there is comma. After John, Paul rather here, comma. Then after number. If I want to add another one, I add comma, then give another data here. So this is just how to declare a list. So let me clear this first one, which is a single variable, which we have been doing. So now, declaring this list, there is a lot of things we can do on this. For instance, we want to deal with just one single item here. How do we go about it? Remember before when we used to have name is equals to Jerry. For instance, if I want to print Jerry now, I will just say print name. I will just say print name, right? You get it, sir?
Yes.
But now we have multiple items here. It's not just one item. So how do we access them? Or if I want to access the first one, how do I go about it? If I want to access Jerry alone, how do I go about it? If I want to access this, how do I go about it? Or if I want to access the number, how do I access them? What if I want to remove from these items here? What if I want to add from this item here? What if I want to replace from this item here? So these are all the operation we can perform on a list. So let me clean this. We'll be accessing them one after the other. And the first operation we are going to perform is how to access the list. Accessing list items. Okay, good. Now to access them, if you look at these items now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that not? We have 4 items inside this list.
Yes. Yes.
Now, if you have to count them now, normally you are going to say Paul is 1, Jerry is 2, John is 3, and this 39 is 4, right? But
Yes.
now, But now, in terms of a list, we don't start our counting from 1. We start from 0. So which means Paul is 0. Let me give comma like this so that you understand. Jerry is 1, comma. John is 2, comma. Okay, don't even let me use comma. Then this number is 3. Good. Now, I only put the numbers so that you will see it. The numbers are not supposed to be here. You only access them with the numbers. Now, to access them, this is the number. We start from 0, not from 1. This is the positive. Accessing them using their index number. We have the positive index number and we have the negative index number. Now, using the negative index number, let me write the negative index number so that you know how it looks like. We have -1. We have -1. We have -2. -2. We have -3. And we have -4. Now we are going to use these two, both the positive and the negative. Then you see how it is. This negative is not arranged well here, but I have my reason of arranging it like this so that you will know how it works when we run it. Now let's start accessing each items using their index number. For instance, now we want to print John. You know that the index number of John is 2. The positive index number of John is 2. Good. Now we want to print John. We'll just say name. We can say print what? Name. Then inside, we are going to have a square bracket and put the index number inside the square brackets. The index number of John is 2. We'll just put 2. Look at this now. Look at what I said. I said print name, which is the variable. Then at the front of it, I put a square bracket. Inside the square bracket, I put the index number of the item I want to access. I believe you are seeing this, sir.
Yes, sir.
So now let's run our code. Let's run it and see the number or what is going to give us. Let's see the result we are going to get from this. Okay, this is going to take a little bit time. I'm just running it today. Let me use this rather. So I have multiple things installed. As time goes on, you'll be installing more things on your system as well. I have a lot of frameworks installed on this system. So sometimes if I'm running a program like this, it used to be somehow slow. Though I don't run a program like this, but I want you to understand. If not, I will have run it from this command prompt. This command prompt, I can use it to run my code and I'll get my result. But don't let me do that, so that let's go gradually so that you'll not be confused. So now look at it. We have John now. Look at the result here. We have John. So John is printed because the serial number of John is 2. So you can say we are now able to access John alone without accessing everything. Now what if we want to access the first number, which is Paul? We want to access Paul. We'll just change the index number from 2 to 0 because we know that Paul is 0. We'll rerun our code. Okay, you can see Paul is out here.
Yeah.
Good. So this is how to access using our index number, negative index number. So even if you have multiple here, just know that the only difference that is there, from our normal list we write in our book. It's just that our normal list starts from 1, but in Python programming it starts from 0. That is just the difference. So when you want to access, you don't make the mistake of starting from 1, because if you start from 1, then maybe you want to access Paul now. You have forgotten that Python start from 0. You now wrote 1. Definitely it is the values or the data that follow that is going to be accessed, because the first data is 0. So it is very, very important to know this. It is very, very important to know this. Now, how can we, now we have learned how to access, and if you want to print everything, let me remove this square brackets. If you want everything to be output, look at it, print name, just the same way you print your normal one before, it's still the same. You just say print, then you put the variable. Let's run it. You'll see everything is going to be output. You can see the list, look at it, it brought everything. We have Paul, we have Jerry, we have John, we have 39. So everything will be here. But to access them one after the other, you have to use their index number. Now let's try the negative index number, so that I will not just write it there, so that you have the idea. Because it will not be the way I arrange it now, it will not be like that. So let me run it. Now I put -1. Let's see the one that is going to come out in -1. Let's say the name is going to give us in -1. Good. Now look at what we have with -1. Can you see the difference? We have 39. That's why I told you that it won't be arranged the way I arrange it like that. It will not be like that. So which means -1 is starting from the back, from the bottom. If I want to access the last number now, I can access the last number using 3. For instance, now the last item here is 3. And if I want to use the negative, the last item now will not be -4 or -3. The last item will be -1.
-1.
Yes, -1. So which means if I put -2 now, John will be -2. This will be -2. If I put -3, Jerry will be -3. If I put -4, then Paul will now be -4. So starting from the back, if you want to use the negative, though, there is a lot of way we do things. It depends on how you find it fast to get. There's something I used to tell my student. I said, we have different ways of killing a fowl. If you carry a fowl and slaughter it with a knife, the fowl will die. If you did not slaughter it, you just put it inside hot water, it will still die. If you carry the fowl, you said you don't want to use knife, you carry gun and shoot the fowl will still die. If you just carry the fowl and uproot the head, it will still die. So these are different ways of killing a fowl. It now depends on you. If you like, you'll be using knife to kill the fowl. If you like, you should be using gun to kill the fowl. It's just for you, it's the result we are after, what you get. After using a gun, did the fowl die? If yes, good.
Yes.
If you use a knife, someone that uses a knife too, the fowl dies. So it is the result we are after. So for me now, you see this negative index, I have never used it before, but I used to teach people so that, I have to cover everything, so that when you go out there and see something new, you will not feel like, but the person that teach me this did not make mention of this. So I don't do that. Even what I don't use, I will teach it, so that you know that yes, it's not as if I don't know it. I know it, but I have my own way of doing things. So now this negative index, I don't use it. I have never used it before. I only use it when I'm doing example for students. But normally using it in a live practical, I have never. Because it's somehow confusing. For you to be writing -2, then you'll be thinking of the ones to access. Rather than just starting from, that your first item is a 0. And your last item depends on the numbers of lists you have inside. For instance, now if we have 100 people here, if we have 100 names inside this list now, we actually know that the last number will be 101 because we have 101 names. Because the first name is not going to be 1, it's going to start from a 0. So if the first one starts
Yeah.
from a 0, we know where the last one is going to land. So it's just using the positive and the negative is the same. It just depends on the one you wish to use. That is just the. So now I will continue to use the positive. I only made mention of the negative so that at least you have the idea. You will not go out and see it and feel like, this person have duped me, or this person did not explain this to me. It's true. So nothing will be new to you, even if you go on YouTube, you watch video, you watch anything, or you see a professional programmer telling you this, you will know that no, this thing is not new to me. At least I have heard of it before, and I have it in my book. If you are the type of person that documents or that writes down, you say, yes, I have this in my book. I have seen this before. It's not new to me. So now let's go to the next thing. What do? We want to learn how to change. How do we change? It's still with their index number. Everything we are doing today will be with their index number. How do we change? For instance, these are a list of students in my class. Paul is a student in my class. Let's imagine Jerry is a student in my class. John is a student in my class. Let's imagine that this 39 is also a name and is a student in my class. Now let's now imagine that this first name here, which is Paul, left the school. Maybe you have 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 4 students in the class. And the first person that maybe the name started, in school they arrange the name alphabetically. Maybe the first person that started the name start from A. Now the person now left the school. You cannot continue having the person's name or the person's details still in your class while the person is no more in the class. So you have to replace the person, you have to remove the person, or if there is a newcomer, you replace that person with the person missing. So it is 2 things we can do in this situation. It's either we replace the person that we want to remove, or we remove the person completely. So we'll be doing the 2 now. First of all, let's imagine that they brought another person. Let me write one name different here. Okay, let's imagine they brought a new person, and the person they brought was Peace. They brought Peace, and Paul has left the school. How do we change Paul? How do we replace Peace? Or how do we replace Paul with Peace? That is what we want to do now. How to replace. Let me write the topic here. I used to like when we are seeing it. So, replacing or changing. Changing list items. Changing list items. No. So now, let's do that. We want to change this Paul to Peace. What do? We will just write a small code. We'll just name. Look at it. You will just say name. You can write another variable that is going to store it, or you write it directly. It doesn't mean. But the best thing is to have another variable. Okay, let me go straight. Let's say name. Write name like this. Square bracket at the front of it. What is the index number of Paul, the person you want to replace?
0.
0. Good. We'll put 0 here. We'll now come to this place. We'll now say is equals to, which means name, which is a variable, is 0, which is the index number. So we are dealing with Paul, is equals to new name we want to replace Paul with. We want to replace with Peace. Look at it. Then here we'll just say print name. That is all. We are done. You will just say name, this name, the index number of the 0, which is Paul, is equals to new values, which is Peace. So this name will be replaced with this. So now remember when we printed everything, when the last time we did print name, we have, look at the list of what we have here. We have Paul, got it? We have Paul, we have Jerry, we have John, we have 39. Now let's see what we are going to have. Let me run the code now. Now, can you see what we have? Can you see the result?
Yeah.
We now have peace, Jerry, John, and 39, because we only affected Paul. So nothing is going to affect the remaining ones. Nothing will affect them. That is why we deal with each item with their index number. For instance, in higher institution now, the index number they used to use is their matric number. So if the lecturer don't even have business with student's name. If a lecturer want to fail a student, he uses the matric number. If a lecturer want to harm a student, he uses the matric number. So once the matric number of a student is gotten, then that student is finished. They can do anything on you. So let's imagine now that this is the index number is now our matric number. This is the matric number of the student. Paul is a 0, Jerry is 1, John is this. Now, maybe I don't want Paul to pass my exam. And I have another student which I want to replace with Paul. What I just did now is what I'm going to do. I'm going to replace, this is the list, this is the variable name, this is Paul ID number, this is Paul number, and I have another person's name to hold that. So I have replaced Paul completely. So now what I did here is not going to save inside this place. If you notice on our code here, we still have Paul, but on the results we are having peace. So it's not going to come inside this place and come and save it, although there is a way we save it, whereby we will have empty name here. We'll have an empty name here. Then the user will enter from input, just like the example, the assignment you did. You know, the user is going to enter what they want and is going to save. Good. Now you can actually use that same method to save something here. You want to change peace, you just say, okay, enter a new name. Then the user will type the new name from this place. Bang, 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 bang. Maybe it's peace, maybe any name. Press enter and the name will come here directly and come and save it. So we can use that method. Once you know a particular things like this, just try to like split it in different ways. That is how programmers used to think, and that is how especially hackers, that is the way they think. If you give them a single value, they will multiply it to 100 places. Just a single thing, they will multiply. They will reason, what if you do this, what if you are like this, what if you are like this. They think very fast. So that is how a programmer is supposed to be thinking. Now that with what you have learned before now, using the if and else, you can actually perform if and else here. Every other thing you have learned before can be performed on this list. And you see, this list is very, very important, because when we get to machine learning, we'll be making use of list very well. So anything you learn, just I like when people document. For instance, maybe you are jotting something down, because it's not everything I said here I used to remember, although the video is record. But sometimes I delete the video even when my system is full or hanging. So it's not everything I say that I remember. So I like when people jot down, so that it's really going to help. So now this is the first thing we did. We have learned how to access the items. We have learned how to replace or change the items. Let's learn more things that we can do. Let's learn how to insert. For instance, now let's imagine Paul is still in the school. Paul did not leave the school. We now have a newcomer, and the newcomer we have is peace. You know, is another scenario now. It's different from when someone is leaving, we are replacing someone. No, this time around everybody is around. We just have a newcomer which we need to include to our list. So that's what we want to do now. So now, how do we go about it? Okay, let me write the topic here. Let me write inserting items So list, how to insert items on this. Let me delete this. Okay, so now we want to add piece to this list here. Paul will still be there and want to add piece. Now, normally, we have two ways of doing this. The first way of doing this is when we override other people. What do I mean by override? For instance, I want to override Paul. I don't want Paul to be the first student again. I want to override him. I want the newcomer to be the first person or the first name that will be here. I have a method to do that. Or normally, I just had the student, then the student will come last here. Then if another student come, they will come last like this. So that is another means. So that is the two means we use in adding or inserting an items into a list. The first is to override the items inside the list. The second one is just to add it normally, the way it's supposed to be. You know, we are in Nigeria, and there are sometimes they give us a list which they will just tell you, okay, add this person's name, and what you will just do, you will not mind, you will not want to remove the person's name, you will just shift the person. If that person is in number 7, you can shift that person, let the person go to number 8, then you put your own name in number 7. So we also do such here. So let's go into it. Now, how do we add a name? You write the variable name. You now say dot insert, very simple. Then you put a bracket like this. There's something we call it a function, but when we get to function, you will understand this better. This thing we just did now, insert, then have a bracket. This print, then he's carrying something inside. Sometimes it will not, you will understand it when we get to function. So now you just put name. That is the name of the variable you have here. Anything you have here is what you are going to put here. Dot insert. Then inside this place, what will be there? What is going to be here is the index number of that person you want to add.
5.
Okay, 5. Okay, we say 5. Then comma, the name of the student. We said peace, right? Or we should change the name. Okay. Now, it's done. Having this now, we have 0, 1, 2, 3. It's supposed to be 4. If we want it to be added here.
4.
Okay. Now, this method, I don't want you to go straight in this method. You know, if you say 4 is coming here, this is the override. Using this insert method is the overriding method. Let's imagine I want to put peace first before Paul. So let me give peace.
Okay.
What will I now give peace? I want to collect
0.
someone. Is 0 good? I want to collect someone's position for peace. That is when we use the insert method. If you want to use the normal method, there is another method. There's another thing. It will not be insert. We'll go to that now. Now let's print this. Let's run our code and see what will happen. Good. Can we see now?
Yes.
Now we have peace. We have Paul. We have Jerry and we have John. So peace now has override Paul. In fact, peace has override everybody because everybody index number is going to change. The person that is first before will go to second. The person that is second before will go to third. So this is a method used to override. Now, how do we add this normally without overriding? You don't need to be declaring it. I know what you wanted to do the other time is to put 4 so that it will come here. Anytime you want it to come here, appear normally the way it's supposed to be, there is a method we use. And what method do we use? There's something we call append. So it will now be name, instead of name.insert, it will now be name.append. And inside the append, you don't
Okay.
need to put any index number. Just put the name directly. Now let me just add another person. Let me put Samuel here, for instance. Look at the two method we use. This is the two method we use in inserting or in putting an item in a list. The first method, which carry the insert, is to override. That's why we put the ID or the serial number or the index number of the place we want to take for the person by force. But the second method, which is the append, which is the normal method, is just to put the person's name and the person will be added to the list. Now, I don't want you to forget these two things, append and insert. These things are very important in machine learning. Although I will still explain when we get there, but then you will now be seeing the practical aspect of it, how we make use of them live. Now, let's run our code. Good. Can you see the result? Look at Samuel. Hello? Hello, are we still together?
Yes.
Okay. Now you can see Samuel has been added to this list, and it was added to the next after the last. So we don't need to give it an ID. It will be added directly. I hope you understand this, sir.
Yes. But I have a question.
All right, please ask, sir.
And the question is, I thought for this append to be active, you are supposed to freeze the variable of insert, because since it is, or is it that when you try to what do you do? What do you try to print? When you try to print, is it that it will recognize the last variable that is created? Because I noticed this append I just created and the one of insert, they are both there, but when you make a command, it only recognize the one of Samuel. I thought the other one will disrupt it. The one of insert will disrupt it. Or are you not supposed to freeze that one?
No, it's not distracting it. Everything is happening here. Look at it. The one of insert is peace. Remember, peace is not here initially. It is Paul that is here. And look at peace is in our last
Okay.
result here. You get it, sir?
Okay.
Now, okay, let me remove this now so
So
that this is how Python works. I understand your question, sir. This is how Python works. Python
so
works from the top
okay, sorry.
to the... Okay, sir.
Okay, sorry. Let me explain something.
All
So
right.
now all the changes I want to make in this list, I will just be putting name and put that one, name and put, and all of them, when I put all of them like that, if I print, all of them will show on the list.
Good. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay, now let me explain again. You see, the reason why I'm
Okay.
having name dot this, it means I am referring back to their root, which is their variable. Name is their variable. Look at the name here, line 6.
Okay.
Name is their variable here. So if I change it, if I write another thing here that is not this name of this variable, it's not going to give me what I want. So now I'm saying
Hmm.
name.insert, which means inside this variable, insert this line 10.
Okay.
This line 11 now said inside this variable name, put Samuel. That is the meaning. So now this is how Python works. Python works from the top to the bottom. Python will look at this first line. In fact, Python starts from the very first line. It will look at this first line. But there's a reason why Python ignore all this line. And there's a reason why it has green color. We call them comments. These are line of code that doesn't get executed. We use it to give hints or to give instruction to how our code looks. It makes our code more readable. It gives direction to the code. For instance, I want to give direction. The reason why there is comments in programming is because sometimes it's not only you that work on a particular code. Sometimes you will write your own part of code, transfer it to another programmer to write his own part of code. Now you that wrote the code, you understand your code very well. Transferring it to another programmer, no matter how good or professional that programmer is, if that programmer is not seeing comments, he may not understand what you're trying to do. For instance, now this comment, I'm just using it to list out this. Now, this comment now, for instance, we are writing something here. Here now, I want to give hints to the programmer. I can just say, I'll just write comment here. I'll say, this is to add Peace and Samuel to the list. Now, this thing I wrote now, this person, no matter if, as far as that person is a programmer, we understand, okay, this lines of code is to add Peace and Samuel to the list. That person doesn't need to ask you any question again. The person understand how it works. So we use comment to give, a comment is a line of code that doesn't get executed. So that's the reason why I'm using it to give the topics we are treating. So now Python start looking from this place. Python start from line 1. It's going to look at line 1. Okay, we understand once it saw this hash, it means don't execute this. It comes to line 2, don't execute. Line 3, don't. Line 4, don't. It even comes to this line 5. Once it did not see anything, it goes to line 6. It will now understand that, okay, this is a list. This is a variable holding multiple values. It will come to line 7, nothing to write or nothing to do about. Line 8, nothing. Line 9, nothing. It will now come to line 12. It will now perform this function here. It's going to add Peace. It will now come to line 13. It's going to add Samuel. That is what happened here. It added Peace before adding Samuel here. So it's now going to come to line 14, nothing to do. It will now come to line 15 and output everything. That is how it works. But there are some times whereby we change the thinking of Python. We make it to work to the front. It will go from the bottom. It will go from the top. There's no anyhow you do it. Python cannot start from the bottom and execute to the top. It will start from the top to the down. So sometimes we change the thinking of Python. We allow Python to start from the top. It gets to the middle. It will go back to the top before going back to the bottom. And how do we do this? Using the if and else. Remember, sometimes we have, if this is this, do this, then do the next line. Else, go to the next line. If this is it, go back to the top. Go and do this particular thing at the top. Else, do otherwise. So now whenever we are using if and else, we are shifting Python to the top, to the bottom. We are not making it to run directly the way it's supposed to run. It's going to the top, meet a condition, come back, meet a condition. That is the only situation whereby we allow Python to move to the top, come back, move to the top before going to the next line. If not, Python move from line 1 to the bottom, to the last line. That is how Python understands your code. Now, anything you want to happen to this. Now, for instance, let's imagine that I change this name in this line 6. I want to change the variable name. I don't want name again. I want to change it to, let me change it to details. What will now happen to this one? Can you see that these ones are underlined already? Name is underlined already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's no, they will tell you, if you run this line of code now, it's going to tell you that name is not defined. Let me run it so that you will see the error. Let me run it. Okay. This runner I'm even using is not giving you this. Okay, it's coming. It's coming. Can you see it? Look at it. Naming error. Name. They now quote it. Name is not defined. Which means name is nowhere to be found. Name is not a variable. Is nothing to write home about. It is not holding anything. So we don't understand what you are saying. That is the reason. That is the meaning. So if you want to change this to details now, you have to change where you have this name. Let's change this one to what? To details. You can see this one has changed. Now let me give you a simple means of doing it. For instance, there is a situation whereby you have a variable and you would like to change the variable, and you have used the variable in multiple places. Will you now go and be changing them one after the other? No, you change them once. Okay, how do you go about it? You press Ctrl H. Ctrl H. Look at my Ctrl H. It's going to find and replace. Look at it. I hope you can see it. So in our find, what do we want it to find? We want it to find name.
Name.
Below it, we want to replace it with detail.
Detail.
Good. Here you come here and press enter. Down. You press it again. Now, I press it one after the other. If you press this, it's just to be replacing it one after the other. But if you press this once, it's going to replace everything once. But if you want to see the way it's replacing them one after the other, then you press this. But if you want to do everything one, you press this button. Now you can see that everything has been replaced with detail. So this is how, in fact, this thing I just said now, I did not even teach it in the batch A. It just come to my head now. So now you can now see that it is now the details we are now affecting, we are now adding to. So I hope you understand this. I hope you understand this. Okay?
Loud and clear.
Good. So now we have learned how to replace. We have learned how to insert. We have learned how to override someone and insert and take that person's position. We have learned how to add someone to a list normally. Now, how do we remove? We want to learn how to remove someone from the list. Maybe someone is no more present. Then we should remove the person from the list instead of having a useless name on the list. So let me write the topic here. Let me write removing items from a list. Removing item from a list. To remove item from a list, we have to use two methods. Just like, we use two methods to add them to the list.
Yeah.
Same thing, we also have two methods to remove them from the list. The first method we use, which is the insert here to add to the list, we use the index number. Is that not? Now we also have another method, which we can use the index number to remove a name from the list. And we can also use another method to just put the name. We just write John and it will remove John. And we actually have another method whereby we just write 2 and it will remove John. So we have two means of doing that too. So this addition here, let me comment it out so that it's not going to run this line of code again. So that is not going to distract what we are doing. So normally this is what we have in our list: Paul, Jerry, John, and 39. Now this 39 is hard here because it's a number. I want to remove it. I don't want this here again. So we use the first method and it's very simple. Just like we have been doing, detail, dot this dot this. So simple detail dot remove. Detail dot remove. And who do we want to remove? We want to remove 39. We want to remove 39.
Okay.
We want to remove it. Let's use the normal method first. We are now coming back to use the index number. We want to remove 39. We'll just put what we want to remove directly here. We'll just put what you want to remove. Even if it's Paul you want to remove, just put Paul directly. It's going to remove it. Now let's run it. Now look at the list now. Can you see? We now have Paul.
Yeah.
We have Jerry and we have John. No more 39 here. This is the first method. We have the second method, which we use the index number. How do we go about it? We just put detail. We say detail dot pop, pop. Then you put the index number directly inside this place. Put the index number directly inside this place. So which one should we remove? I'll comment this first one off so that nothing will happen to it again. This line of code will not get executed again. So we now want to use index number to remove them. So which one do we want to remove? Which should we remove?
3.
Okay, 3. We should remove 3. Yeah, look at, we have put 3. Let's run our code. Okay, you can see the result. Look at it. We have Paul, we have Jerry, we have John, no 39. Now let's put another name. Let's put another index number so that it will not be as if we are just using 3. Let's use different one. What should we use?
1.
Okay, 1. Okay, look at it, 1. And we actually know that Jerry is 1. Let's run it and see. Now look at it, good. Look at, we now have Paul, we have John, and we have 39. So Jerry has been removed from this. So it depends on the one you choose to use. You know, sometimes you may need to override an element. So this insert, you can use this insert. If not, if you are not overriding, you are just adding to a list. Normally you can use your append to do that. So you can work with the two, anyone you choose to use. Although there are some situations whereby you need to make use of the two. So in such a situation, you have the two to use. And this, to remove this, is just one you need to learn. But it's good you know the two, so that you choose any one you know. You can use this method, and in another code you use another method to show that yes, you really understand this thing, but it's still removing the same thing. If you use the pop method, you remove the same thing. If you use the remove method, it's still removing the same thing. So it now depends on you which one you choose to use. Now we have learned how to access. We have learned how to access items. We learn how to change item. We learn how to insert item. We learn how to remove item from a list, which is very, very good and very, very correct. Now what we need to know is just very simple. It's just remaining very little things, then we'll end a list completely. But I don't want that to happen today. I want to move with you fast, and I want you to understand that I want to move with you gradually at the same time. So this thing, I want you to assimilate it, understand it. I can start, though our class is supposed to end 5 minutes now, though I can start another class so that we'll continue for 2 hours. But there is a reason why I don't want to rush you. You know, you are the only one now in the class, and you know, Ademe, we have a lot of persons. They will delay before I ask this one, before this person asks this question. The time will delay, you understand? But now, you are the only one I have to
Mm.
give you your free chance to understand it, because if you don't understand this and we move to the next thing, it's going to affect me myself. You understand? I want you to be free with this one, play
Exactly.
around with it, use example, do a lot of example. In fact, just reason some things that will not even exist, run it on it, have errors, we'll debug the errors. That is how to learn. When you have assimilated this one very well, then
Mm.
good. In our next destiny, you just tell me the next day you'll be free. If you are free tomorrow, there's no problem. In fact, if you are free every day, I can be having class with you every day. I don't have problem with that. So if you are free tomorrow,
Okay.
there's no problem. And if you are not free tomorrow, maybe if I send this video now, I'll send it right now immediately after this. You just go through the video, put it with the ones you have learned, do a lot of example. Maybe you use tomorrow to do that. Then next tomorrow we'll have another class. If you are okay with that, no problem. You just give me the time, you'll be free and a
Oh,
day.
all right, sir. I will.
Yes, yes, sir. So we are going to end the class. Yeah, I'll send the video to you immediately. Thank God
All right.
we
Thank you so very
concluded.
much.
Yes, sir, you're welcome, sir. We concluded we'll be having it personal class. Do you know that nobody chat me up, oh, and nobody complained that since all this while we did not have. I just wonder the way people reason. You pay your money, and is the person that want to teach you that will now be running after you again. Kai, it is well.
They feel it's difficult.
Kai,
They, they feel it's difficult.